Disclaimer: No Self-Hate is a mental health awareness platform, not a licensed therapy provider or certified psychological organization. All content is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice or a substitute for professional mental health care. If you are in crisis or need immediate support, please contact a licensed mental health provider or call, text 988 for the Crisis Lifeline, US only. Some topics may include sensitive mental health themes. Viewer discretion is advised. This channel may include brief use of copyrighted material under Fair Use, U.S. Copyright Law, Section 107, for commentary, education, and discussion.
Hello, and welcome to No Self-Hate, Season 1, Episode 4, What is Forgiveness? I am your host, Kevin, and I will be your guide on today's episode. So, before we get into today's episode, let's put ourselves in the right mindset. I want you to start thinking about all of the things that you still hold on today that someone's done to you, whether that's betrayal, whether that's disappointment, whether that's, hurt you emotionally or physically. I want you to think about all of that trauma that we learned about as we were going through this journey. And just to recap that journey, we started off in episode 1 with learning about our self-hate and the ways that we are self-hating. In episode 2, we learned how to resolve our trauma. And in episode 3, we addressed our anger issues and we put solutions to those. Now, if you haven't had the chance to do that, please go check out those videos and, you can catch up with us in where we are. So today, we're going to focus on healing. We're going to focus on forgiveness. Now, forgiveness is one of those things that is very difficult to do because the trauma can be so deep. The things that we hang on to, the letdowns, the hurt, the pain that others have caused us can be so deep that we don't have the tools to learn how to release those things that we hold on to, those subscriptions to misery. So we have to enhance our emotional technology and our emotional intelligence so that we can deal with things that have let us down, so that we can move past all of these hurtful things that we hang on to, whether that's from childhood or whether that's, from yesterday. Learning how to take your trauma in learning how to forgive people that have caused that and forgive yourself if you've caused that, right? If you're the person that has inflicted something on yourself, you have to learn how to forgive yourself as well. So forgiveness is very important in our journey. So today's episode, we're going to do a deep dive into a lot of this information surrounding forgiveness. And the goal is to enhance our understanding so that we then can take this information and this knowledge and apply it in real time in our life. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been working on my self-hatred, I've been working on resolving my trauma, and I've been working on resolving my anger. In just the 4 weeks that No Self-Hate has started, my life has changed. I catch myself now when I'm feeling angry, and I think about, aggressive angry and, different aggressive anger and different types of anger, because I am now conscious and aware that I could be displaying anger. So there have been plenty of opportunities for me to do that. And I think before I saw the No Self-Hate, What is Anger episode, I think I may have felt susceptible to things like that in the past. But as of lately, I have been firing on all cylinders. I am monitoring my anger. I am communicating when I'm having issues and different things like that. So the same thing, we're trying to get that same goal from watching What is Forgiveness now. So I don't want to take up too much time. We got a lot of great information to get into, but before we do, I want to thank all of my subscribers. I want to thank all of my supporters. I've been getting your feedback. I've been hearing how this information has been helpful to you. It is motivating me. It is inspiring me to do more. Keep the feedback coming. We're going to continually improve with the information that we receive from our subscribers and supporters to make sure that we are curating a product that is easily digestible for you, and it is also helpful and easily applicable into your life, or easy for you to apply in your life. All right. So if you can, go ahead, like now, subscribe. We must spread the word. We must spread this information. No self-hate. We need everyone loving themselves. We need everyone, going through their trauma, going through their anger, going through their self-hatred, and becoming better people, not only for themselves, but for the entire world. So, and No Self-Hate, our goal is to accelerate the evolution of human emotional intelligence, and that's exactly what we're going to do with your help. You are a conduit for our success, and that is to make sure everyone is finding ways to love themselves in better ways. All right, so I won't keep talking. Let's just get right into the episode and the information. I can't wait. All right, everybody, let's get right into this information. All right, so what is forgiveness? So let's think about that before we define it and synchronize our clocks and make sure we're dealing from the same deck. We're going to define it after this, but what do you think forgiveness is? What does forgiveness mean to you? When was the last time you forgave someone? Why did you forgive them? How did you rationalize forgiveness for that person or for yourself? Those are the questions we want to ask ourselves. But forgiveness to me is letting go of unnecessary baggage. I always say the subscription to misery, right? Just letting that energy leave your body and just moving on with your life. That's what I think forgiveness is. I've had to do that a lot in my lifetime. It is not an easy thing to do, especially if you've been hurt really bad. But that is my definition of forgiveness. What is your definition? All right. So the definition of forgiveness is the internal process of consciously choosing to let go of resentment, thoughts of revenge, or prolonged anger towards someone, including yourself, who has caused harm, regardless of whether they apologize, change, or even acknowledge their wrongdoing. So this is like unconditional, like regardless of their actions, I am going to forgive someone so that I can gain value, so that I can move on, so that I can cancel that subscription to misery, right? Forgiveness is not excusing bad behavior, forgetting the pain, denying or suppressing hurt, immediate reconciliation, allowing repeated harm. That is not what forgiveness is. Excusing bad behavior, you still have to be able to judge, patterns. If you're constantly having to forgive someone for the same thing, what does that say, right? And then forgetting the pain, you're not supposed to forget the pain when you're forgiving people. The pain's always gonna be there, but it's about doing your best to resolve that pain, to resolve that trauma, to turn that pain into positive action for yourself. But you don't have to forget that pain. We just want to forgive them. Humans make mistakes. People are human, and people are prone to error, and it just happens. As much as we want our family members to be perfect, as much as we want other people to be perfect, that's just not the reality of the situation. So forgiveness is a necessary tool in the quest to happiness, on our quest of fulfillment. One of our most valuable tools is forgiveness. Denying or suppressing hurt, you don't have to do that. In our previous episodes where we talked about how to resolve trauma, we've learned that we don't have to deny or suppress hurt. we get that energy out of us. We must get that out of our body and out of our mind and communicate that. Um, Forgiveness is not immediate reconciliation. Just because someone has apologized and I forgave them doesn't mean that I'm ready to reconcile at that moment, right? Um, a person with strong emotional intelligence has that ability to have that recovery time where something happened, there was an apology said, and that person forgives them right there on the spot. That is high level emotional intelligence. But for some of us, it takes a while for us to go through and process things and get over things. So immediate reconciliation is not anything we must, continuously focus on. And then forgiveness is not allowing repeated harm. You have to know when, enough is enough. How many times are you going to allow the same thing to hurt you, right? At some point, that's going to be on you if you continuously get hurt by the same thing. Because if someone in your life is hurting you and they really love you and you express to them that they hurt you, they should stop. But if they don't, can we say that that's love? If they're not willing to sacrifice things to help me have a happier life or have, better energy, just something to think about. All right, so forgiveness is ultimately an act of freedom and self liberation. It creates space to reclaim your peace, energy, and emotional wholeness. It is ultimately an act of freedom and self liberation. So let's think about that. Let's say, for instance, I have a grudge in my heart with an old friend or something. And I think about that grudge sometimes, and it brings me misery when I think about it. Because it's bringing me misery, it's like putting me in a prison where I am not free to feel happy because I am hanging on to this grudge. Whether that's a desire for an act of revenge, or if that is, me just harboring nasty feelings and negative energy, I'm hanging on to this grudge. It's created a prison for me. And in order for me to be free, in order for me not to have those impulsive thoughts pop in my head about this situation, that, I must liberate myself. I must free myself. And the best way to do that is through forgiveness. All right, so let's go into the six main types of forgiveness. All right, so we got decisional forgiveness. All right. A cognitive commitment to change your behavior towards someone involves deciding to stop seeking revenge or retaliating, even if your emotions haven't caught up yet. So decisional forgiveness. It's a commitment to change my behavior towards someone that involves deciding to stop seeking revenge or retaliation. So what happens is it's like a tennis match with revenge and retaliation. One person does this, and then the next person does that, and then it's just back and forth with a bunch of nonsense and negativity. So decisional forgiveness is telling yourself that, hey, I'm done retaliating or trying to get revenge on this thing. I know I'm still a little hurt about it, but I'm just going to decide to move forward from this situation. All right. The key traits focused on behavior and intention, not feelings. So when you're using decisional forgiveness, you're focused on behavior and intention, not feelings. It's often the first step toward deeper emotional forgiveness. May feel incomplete if emotional work isn't done later, right? So with decisional forgiveness, it's kind of like on the spot forgiveness. It's like proactive work for what you got to do later. As far as making sure you let go of things completely and move on with your life. An example: even though I'm still angry about being lied about, I chose not to seek revenge. My integrity means more to me than holding on to bitterness. I won't let someone else's dishonesty turn me into someone I'm not. So that's heavy, right? Sometimes you could go and get into this back and forth with someone, or over anything, and you end up playing their game. You end up stooping to their level, because that may not be who you are. You may just be tired of dealing with something, and you're fed up and you want to do something about it. And what ends up happening is we lower our value when we stoop to the level that others may have to stoop to get revenge or feel retaliation or whatever, retribution. When we have to go to those levels, we kind of lose, because if that's not what you've been taught and you're playing the game the way someone else is playing the game, then where's your integrity for your morals, for your ethics and your values, right? So we have to make sure that we're using decisional forgiveness when we find ourselves going in back and forth and situations aren't getting better. Retaliation is turning up. Different things are happening. We have to make the decision to forgive and move on, just to stop that cycle, just to stop that loop. Okay, so decisional forgiveness is best used when you need to de escalate conflict quickly. When maybe there's a confrontation that you may fear may get out of control, or if you're in public or something and you want to avoid conflict or something like that, you can use decisional forgiveness. Next up, you want to avoid making things worse while processing emotions. You want to just give yourself some time. You may want to say, hey, don't worry about it. We could talk later or something, or I'll think about this later. You want to give yourself some time to process your emotions, be objective, be accountable, different things like that. And then last but not least, you're not ready to feel compassion, but you want to stop harmful cycles, right? So you want to do damage control. You want to stop the flooding, so to speak, and kind of let things organically begin to heal, and people start having, again, objective views and putting their empathy, putting themselves in someone else's shoes and different things like that. All right. Next up, we have emotional forgiveness, a deep emotional shift from resentment, bitterness, or hatred to more neutral or even compassionate feelings, releasing the emotional weight of the offense. The key traits involve genuine emotional change, not just words. Reduces intrusive thoughts and emotional triggers. That's very important, because intrusive thoughts are just impulsive thoughts, or thoughts that we just can't control. They just pop out of nowhere. Now, ultimately, we can control them, but we have to train ourselves to control these different thoughts. But emotional forgiveness is more where you are operating, again, at a higher level of emotional intelligence, where you're trying to get rid of everything. You're trying to get rid of the feelings associated to it. That is the level of forgiveness you're trying to have. It is for yourself. It is a healthy decision. And that's what we do when we use emotional forgiveness. It often occurs through grief, processing, or therapeutic work. Again, no self hate is all about sharing information, making sure that if you wanted to take the road where you had to put in the work yourself, there is a path available for you. But there are also other paths. There are counselors, there are therapists, there are a lot of organizations, there's information out here. So whatever works for you. But if you want to continue to enhance your understanding of emotional intelligence and different things like that, you want to make sure that you're talking to someone or you're putting the work in yourself. I understand that therapy can get costly. I understand the prices of insurance and all of these different things, inflation. So sometimes, or maybe there's an opportunity for you to start putting in the work yourself. And if so, this is the best way to do it, where we gather the information and we go through it together. All right. Next up, an example is, even though my father rarely showed affection growing up and made me feel invisible, I've come to understand he was battling his own emotional limitations. So think about that. We hold our parents to this high standard as if they must achieve perfection. And we have to understand that they may have some limitations on the knowledge that they gained within their life. Maybe they never were taught about emotional intelligence. Maybe they were never um, shown love through hugs and validation and listening and empathy. Maybe they just don't have this emotional technology available and they're doing the best they can. So we have to always have empathy for that. And that's where emotional forgiveness comes in. It's like you overstand that a person has their own things that they're going through and that they have to navigate and that they must conquer. And maybe they're not going to be perfect all of the time. Again, anti perfectionism. But it's possible for them to achieve excellence if they had that education. I still wish things had been different, but I chose to forgive him so I can stop carrying that pain into every relationship I have. That is very important. That trauma that we experience goes from one relationship to the next, to the next, to the next, because of our fears, because of our our quest for safety, whether that's financially, whether that's in a relationship, all of those different things. We build up these defense mechanisms and these walls that we carry with us into each relationship. And we have to give everyone a chance. Everybody's different. No two people are the same, right? People can have the same behavior or display the same behavior, but no two people are the same. So we have to walk into these relationships where we are looking at people with a fresh start, with a clean slate. They don't know our trauma. They don't know what we've been through. We don't know what they've been through. So it's like a fair shake for us both to come in open minded, optimistic, hopeful, and different things like that. All right, it is best used when you're working through trauma, betrayal, or long standing hurt. You're ready to release anger for your own healing. You're seeking peace, not revenge. That's all it's about. Your beats per minute. Keeping your beats per minute low emotionally. Now, physically, when you work out, your beats per minute are going to go up because that's meant to exercise your body. You're doing physical exercise, right? But emotionally, there are some people that are so emotionally hurt or dealing with so much anxiety and different things that their sitting heart rate is an elevated level of beats per minute because they're stressing, right? Because they're hanging on to all of this trauma and to all of this other stuff that is starting to affect their health over time. All right, self-forgiveness. This is very important. All right, the process of releasing guilt, shame, and self condemnation for harm you cause to yourself or others while still taking accountability. That is heavy, right? You know, you have to forgive yourself. You're going to make some bad decisions sometimes. You are going to say hurtful things. You are going to inadvertently sometimes say hurtful things. You're going to be inadvertently inconsiderate sometimes. But you have to understand that again, you're not perfect. We must stay anti-perfectionism. There's an opportunity for growth within that when you could see that you will never be perfect and you can stop excessively self-criticizing yourself and different things like that and just forgive yourself and live life. Move on. You will have a thousand events in your life that you could feel something about. You know, try not to get caught up on the same ones forever. Let those things go. Got plenty of life ahead of you, right? So self forgiveness is very important, especially in no self hate. You must forgive yourself. That is the only way. Remember, when we read the definition of forgiveness, it is a necessary tool in the quest for happiness, in the quest for fulfillment, in the quest for peace. Peace being the key word there. Inner peace. You must let go and cancel those subscriptions to misery. All right, key traits include remorse, accountability, self compassion. Often the hardest form of forgiveness requires separating your identity from your mistakes. basically saying, hey, I'm human. I made a bad decision on that one. I'll get the next one. Okay, I 1 out of 10 I got wrong. So that's 90%. I'm still doing well. Always having that silver lining for yourself, always loving yourself, just constantly giving yourself a chance, constantly forgiving yourself. It is very important in your quest to happiness. All right, you cheated on a partner years ago, and even though you've changed, you still carry shame. Through journaling and therapy, you begin to forgive yourself and rebuild your sense of worth. So, yeah, just letting it go. And don't let people keep you in a box of your old self. Don't let them keep you in a box of your old self. If you made some mistakes in the past and you've genuinely changed and the people around you can't see that, that's on them. You continue to believe in your change. You continue to believe in your growth. But sometimes we'll find ourselves where people try to keep us in a box of who we used to be forever. Oh, you did this one thing, you may do it again in the future. No, that's your insecurities. And I made a mistake. I apologize for that mistake. I asked you for forgiveness and I forgave myself and I moved on. Right? So self forgiveness is very important. Best used when you're stuck in shame loops. You're sabotaging yourself because of guilt. You need to reestablish self trust and compassion. So you want to use self forgiveness in those instances so that, again, you can maintain your peace, you can maintain your happiness. All right, situational forgiveness. Forgiveness that takes context into account, recognizing that the harm was caused by circumstances such as trauma, addiction, mental illness, or ignorance. Oof. Heavy. That is heavy. Wow. Because sometimes they say, well, and I don't like saying it, but hurt people hurt people. Why are they hurt? Do you have empathy for why they are hurt? Do you, if you saw their life on a movie screen, would you have the empathy to see that, okay, I understand why this person may be guarded. I understand why this person may snap out sometime because this person may be from an environment where they have to be tough all the time, where they have to defend themselves and always make sure that their safety is first and different things like that. You have to understand where people come from. You won't understand everything that someone went through, but we want to have empathy that, hey, we are all going through something and have gone through something. Some of us more than others, right? So if a person that's going through some type of trauma, addiction, mental illness, we all suffer from a certain level of ignorance. No one knows everything. If you don't know everything, it's safe to say that there's a percentage of ignorance that you have within you, right? So if no one knows everything, we're all operating in different levels of ignorance. So we got to have that empathy and that grace for each other that, hey, we're human. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to accelerate the evolution of human emotional intelligence. We're trying to go there. Bear with us. Give us time. Let us grow, right? Key traits. Sees complexities, not excuses. Helps release resentment while holding understanding. Often involves grief for unmet expectations. Okay? So you're not paying attention to the excuses. It's situational. It depends on, you know, the subject, or, you know, what exactly happened, the exact circumstances. There are a spectrum of things that could happen that could warrant situational forgiveness or not, right? But it's up to your discretion. But again, we are looking over these to find ways that we can leverage them in our everyday life, with our families, at work, with our friends, within ourselves. All right. You forgive your father. So the example is you forgive your father for being emotionally distant when you learn about the abuse he experienced growing up. You understand he was doing his best even if it hurts you. Empathy. if there was just a little more empathy in the world for each other. You can't even make a mistake without someone getting upset anymore, right? And in this example, it says your father, you forgave your father because he experienced some level of abuse when he was growing up. You had no idea your father went through that until you found it out, and then it all made sense, right? Hurt people, hurt people. People or unresolved trauma causes trauma. Unresolved trauma causes trauma. We have to understand that. We have to try to educate as many people as we can. Our parents, that's why it's important for you to be proactive in being a self-starter on this information, learning emotional intelligence so that you could teach it to your family. You have family members that may need this information. You have people that may need someone to talk to, that may be going through some things, that may have a secret like being abused when they were younger and they never talk about it, but they've been carrying it with them the last 30 years, right? Best used. So situational forgiveness is best used when you need to understand why the harm happened. You want to forgive someone who lacked the capacity to do better. Some folks just don't know. We're all at different educational levels. It's safe to assume that we're all at different emotional intelligence levels, right? We're all different. We're all emotionally intelligent in certain ways, right? But some more than others. Okay? And last but not least, you're trying to prevent inherited pain from continuing. All right, so conditional forgiveness. Forgiveness is granted only after certain conditions are met, such as a sincere apology, accountability, restitution, or changed behavior. Conditional forgiveness. When a person says, okay, I'm feeling some horrible feelings, but you know what? I'll throw all of these feelings I'm feeling about you away if you just apologize and a sincere apology and we just move on, right? That's why it's very important never to be too weak to apologize to someone. Again, you're not perfect. You're going to make mistakes, even if you can't see it yourself. Even if your perspective doesn't allow you to see the mistakes that you've made. In the shared reality, people can view what you've done as something that is a mistake or something that is hurtful. We got to always be ready to submit to that, hey, wait, maybe I hurt this person in a way I don't understand, right? And we got to be able to apologize so that we can mend these relationships, so that we can extend these relationships. I know a lot of people that have had friends for like 30 years or 20 years. They've been friends since grade school and different things like that because they know how to leverage the different types of forgiveness so that they can continue their relationships and have their relationships go deeper into the future. Okay. All right. Key traits. Transactional. I'll forgive you if. Remember that if then else. So if I'll forgive you if you do this thing, right? Next up, it can be a stepping stone to healing. It's like an olive branch, right? It's like, hey, if you apologize, I believe our relationship is worth salvaging. If you apologize, I'm willing to let this go, let go of the negative energy, find my way back to peace and happiness with you, and move forward. Right? Not always fulfilling if conditions aren't met. So that's another thing. It could get pretty tough if someone doesn't meet the conditions. If you say, okay, if you apologize, I'll forgive you, and then they say, nah, no, I'm not wrong, I don't want to apologize. That could create another surface, right? But then maybe in that situation we lean on a little emotional forgiveness. Maybe this person can't apologize because no one's ever apologized to them, or they've never been taught why and how to use apologies. And that's a real thing. There are a large amount of people in our society that have not been taught how to use an apology the proper way. Right? Again, it goes back to that ignorance. So the example is, you tell a friend, I'll forgive you if you stop gossiping about me and apologize sincerely. They do, and you're able to let go of it, of the hurt, right? And you all move on with your friendship. How many of us have lost friendships because we weren't willing to apologize? Why did we have to hold the line? Why did something so trivial cost us such a valuable relationship? And why were we willing to risk that relationship? Because of our pride, because of our ego. Some of us right now have lost wonderful friends, and it's not too late. You could reach out to that person. It's never too late to apologize and move the relationship forward. Because what happens if trauma happens at 8 o'clock on December 4th, 10 years later, that person's mind is still going to be at 8 o'clock on December 4th, 2025. In 2035, that person's mind is still going to be thinking about that. Think about how that trauma echoes throughout our lives. I can't believe that I wasn't aware of that. That I was carrying stuff for so many years. All because I didn't resolve it. All because I didn't have the courage to apologize. And sometimes you got to be the bigger person. Sometimes waiting on someone else to apologize, it'll never happen because they don't have the capacity to know to apologize. And they may never gain it in this lifetime. I tell my children, you're either going to be a painter or a canvas. Okay? Sometimes we have to paint the future that we want, right? Sometimes we have to be assertive with the change and the growth that we want. And we have to be willing to show people how to do it and be patient with them while they're doing it. All right, so this is best used when you need safety and accountability before reconnecting. You just want to make sure a person is, being reasonable, a person is, respecting your morals, and, there's some type of connection there still. All right, next up, you're in an ongoing relationship that requires boundaries. Next up, best used when trust must be rebuilt after betrayal. Now that's a big one. And that's where I want to go. I want you all to think about this. A couple that's been married for 50 years. Do you think they had that 50 years was flawless and that they didn't give each other reasons to potentially want to leave? I think they did. But I think that they had forgiveness and they understood the greater good and they understood the bigger picture to know that any problem that they run into is not worth them losing each other no matter what, right? They have to have this forgiveness. And look at that. That's how relationships get to 50 years. That's how people truly bond with you and truly trust you and truly love you, right? When you're able to forgive. 50 years of a relationship. And some of us couldn't make it 6 months. Some of us couldn't make it a year in a relationship without our trauma making us ready to back out of it or making us ready to get away from it out of fear that we will be hurt or out of fear that we're going to lose something. Right? And the key thing that we were missing in all of those relationships that we lost because we got too hurt or because someone did something to us and we weren't able to get over it, the only thing we were missing was forgiveness. I never knew how important forgiveness was until now. All right, so we had conditional forgiveness. Now, unconditional forgiveness, I like this. This reminds me of unconditional love, right? So let's see what unconditional forgiveness is. Forgiveness offered freely, without expectations, apology, or reconciliation. It's based on your values, faith, or personal commitment to healing. Now, this here is the doctorate level of forgiveness. If you are able to convince yourself to be unconditionally forgiving, no one can touch you. Nothing can harm you for long. You are making yourself emotionally invincible when you are able to leverage unconditional forgiveness. You don't need an apology. You don't have any conditions or expectations. You don't need reconciliation. You just know that, A, you want to be peaceful and you want to be happy and you love yourself and you matter. That's your first priority. So letting go of this thing is very important to your mental health. So instinctively, you know, hey, I can't harp on this thing too long because I have to get back to being me. I have to get back to being happy, right? And then it's based on your faith. So if you're a spiritual or religious person, you know, in some religions, you know, forgiveness is a very important thing. It's very important. And think about that. Across many religious texts, all all of them kind of say some of the same things. I won't say all, but forgiveness is referenced in all of them. It's almost like if you're going to be a human being, this is something that you need. This is a tool that you need that people understood years ago, right? And that's unconditional forgiveness. All right. And you just have to want that. You have to, because if you do not, you're going to have conditions for you to forgive someone when really it's just a choice and a decision within your mind. Right now, if you got a relative, if you got a cousin, if you got a sister, if you got a brother, if you got an uncle, if you got a father, if you got a mother, they you need to forgive a friend, anything. Maybe consider there's an opportunity right now for you to unconditionally forgive them. Not because of whatever they feel or whatever their side of the story is, whether they're right or wrong. Why not free yourself? Why not let go and move on? Why not rebuild that relationship? Look at the opportunity costs associated to not forgiving someone. If you haven't forgave someone in let's just say 3 years, and prior to whatever trauma you all experienced that led you to not forgiving that person, prior to that, you all were the best of friends. You used to go to the movies all the time. You used to do all of these different things. But when that trauma happened, it stopped. Look at the opportunity cost there. So you can hold a grudge. So you could hold the line and hold anger and so hold hatred. You sacrifice going on trips with that person. You sacrifice spending time, embracing that person, being around that person, all because you don't have it in you to understand the importance of forgiveness. Or you just may not know, but you know now. Unconditional forgiveness is the way. I am looking to master this. I have been working on this a lot lately. It is very difficult. So, again, I want to preface this by saying a lot of this stuff is easier said than done, but we can do it. I don't think it's, building a stairway, a stairwell to heaven. I don't think it's that. I think that we can take this thing down piece by piece, day by day, implement it every day until we get it, until we understand that forgiveness is not about anybody but ourselves. If you call yourself selfish and you're not forgiving people, you're not really selfish. The most selfish thing you can do is free yourself from any emotional turmoil that you may be feeling, or any trauma that you may be associated with, any data that you have stored on your storage in your brain, right? Any data that is harmful, that is not beneficial, let it go. Forgive whoever did it. We don't need a reason why. We don't need to understand why. Life is better when I don't have to worry about not forgiving someone. The best feeling I've ever felt in life was happiness. Forgiveness contributes to happiness. All right. The key traits, the most emotionally and spiritually liberating form. Unconditional forgiveness is the most emotionally and spiritually liberating form. Doesn't require the offender's cooperation or remorse. We don't look, we on autopilot. We on self-awareness. We don't even need assistance from anyone to heal ourselves. And that's the way we want to do it. We want to become independent healers of self. Self-healers. Yeah, they did that to us. Yeah, that hurt our feelings. Oh, they ganged up on us. Oh, they took this from us, or they denied this from us. They did all of these things, but these are still human beings that are imperfect, that are full of error, that have large amounts of ignorance within them. What are you expecting from imperfect beings? For them to perfectly treat you right all the time? For them to love you all the time? They barely love themselves sometimes. Some people. So we have to watch out for the perfectionist expectations that we're putting on our fellow humans. We must forgive these people. We must forgive them. We don't need their help. We do it on our own. And we forgive whoever needs to be forgiven. We forgive our father if he's never been there. And we understand that our father may not have had his father. Right? Maybe he never knew how to be a dad. We forgive our friend that may have gossiped behind our back. We forgive our sister that may have hurt our feelings or gossiped behind our back, or our brother that may have gossiped behind our back. Any type of trivial, negativity. We forgive all of it. We forgive those people. And the doors are open now. We'll call those people. We'll talk to these people and let them know that, hey, I matured past what you thought I couldn't mature past. I forgive me, and I forgive you. I forgive the both of us, because it takes two to tango. If we've had some type of confrontation or conflict, no matter how right I am, the totality of me and you having this conversation has led to drama, trauma, or negativity. And for that, I'm sorry for my participation in that. And I forgive you for the things that I think that you did to hurt me. And I hope you forgive me for the things that you think I did to you. Let's forgive each other, forgive ourselves, and move on with our life. And I'm available if you still have feelings for me, if you still want to deal with me. I'm here and I'm available. But I understand if you're going to need a little more time for forgiveness, because forgiveness isn't this easy skill that everyone just picks up. It's actually very rare for people to be able to forgive each other. And the recovery time for forgiveness is even longer, right? And what is the recovery time? So the recovery time is, if someone has done something to harm me, and the time it takes for me to recover and forgive them. The fastest I've ever done this was 6 minutes. A family member and I was having a conversation. One thing led to another. The family member said something very, what I considered a little harsh, right? And I explained that to that person, and that person was defending what they said. In that moment, I knew that there was no reasoning with this person, that this person did not understand emotional intelligence. This person did not understand the greater good effect, where whenever I have a relationship or any interaction with a human being or anything that I'm doing in my life, I am aiming for the greater good. And in this conversation, the greater good would have been for both of us to explain ourselves in respectful, honorable ways, apologize to each other, forgive each other, and get off the phone peacefully without anyone hanging up or running off the phone. That was the greater good, right? But the person didn't quite understand that, but I did. So again, I told you, you're going to have to be the painter sometimes. Sometimes you're going to have to paint the outcome that you want from your relationships. And I chose to forgive. Hey, you know what? Don't worry about it. It's just words. We could move on. But that was, that could be taken a certain way. If I was another person, I probably could have taken that another way, but I didn't. I just let it go. I forgave them, and I forgave myself for anything that I may have done that made them defensive or react a certain way. Because again, I may have thought I didn't do anything, but when you love people, when you love family, it's not necessarily about what you think sometimes. Sometimes it's about what they tell you they feel. And you have to respect what people feel. Okay, and an example of that could be you forgive the person who bullied you as a child, not because they apologized, but because you no longer want to carry that poison in your heart. And this was a real thing. I got bullied a little bit as a child, but I've never carried that. I just looked at it as children being children, right? Where, people in numbers feel more powerful and different things like that. I never really carried that energy with me, but some people carry that energy of being bullied with them to this day, and they have not resolved that, and they are going around creating hell for anyone else that is in their path, because they have this unresolved trauma with bullying. Okay, unconditional forgiveness. Forgive whoever did anything to you. You are alive. You have another chance to go seek happiness, to create prosperity, to do the things that you want to do for yourself in your life. And giving your time and giving so much of your clock to negativity, in my opinion, is a waste of time, right? But we have these opportunities again to increase happiness, to increase our fulfillment, to increase our peace. These are just opportunities, and it's up to you whether you're ready to take those opportunities, or even if you want to take those opportunities. All right, so this is best used when the offender is unreachable, unrepentant, or deceased. You want to fully reclaim your inner peace. You believe in forgiveness as a core personal or spiritual value. You believe in forgiveness as a core personal or spiritual value. Believe in forgiveness as a core personal or spiritual value. I think I'm going to try that. I am going to try that. I am going to implement unconditional forgiveness for all of the things in my life that I hold on to. And I'm just going to let go, and I'm just going to move forward with my life. I mean, I'm going to use that energy to harvest peace, to harvest happiness, and to harvest love, self-love as well. All right. So we have now covered the components of forgiveness, and we get ready to wrap this up. This is part 1 of 4, and we're going to wrap this up now. So let's summarize what we went over, and we'll get up out of here. So, why forgiveness is important. It heals the body and mind, reduces stress, anxiety, and physical tension caused by prolonged anger or resentment. So we're healing ourselves physically and mentally. That is very important. What the mind carries, the body will carry as well. So we must clear our mind, and it'll start clearing our body. We'll start feeling better. We'll start having more energy. We'll start having more ideas and neural activity. We must free ourselves from this stress. Next up, forgiveness is important because it restores personal power, breaks the emotional control that the hurt or person may still have over you. Because if someone hurt you in the past, you're thinking about it more than they're thinking about it, probably. And you're probably, at the times you're thinking about it, you're probably the only person on earth thinking about it when you're thinking about it. A lot of people let that stuff go and move on. You're the only one walking around with this luggage. You must let it go. You must forgive. All right, frees emotional space, creates room for peace, love, and clarity by releasing toxic emotional buildup. Supports growth and resilience, transforms pains into wisdom, and helps rebuild identity beyond the wound. Prevents repetition. Healed people are less likely to pass on hurt, or repeat destructive patterns. Must heal yourself. Unresolved trauma causes trauma in others' lives. As long as you're walking around with that, what's on the inside is going to come out. It's going to come out in your ideas. It's going to come out in your actions. You must forgive yourself. All right? And you must forgive those around you. All right, so why the types of forgiveness matters. So each type serves a unique role in the healing process. So for decisional forgiveness, helps you stop reacting from pain before emotions catch up. Emotional forgiveness allows deep inner peace and freedom. That's the one I want. I want emotional forgiveness. Decisional forgiveness as well. It's cool, but I would prefer emotional forgiveness. Self forgiveness is crucial for breaking shame and rebuilding self worth. Okay, I'm definitely gonna continue to exercise self forgiveness. Situational forgiveness brings compassion without erasing accountability. Yes, people mess up. Yes, they're still human and they still matter. I am a human first. I am part of the species human first. Okay. Conditional forgiveness teaches boundary setting and protects your dignity. So, conditional forgiveness, remember we said that was basically if you apologize, we can move on. Pretty much, it's basically setting out conditions or expectations to continue into a relationship or continue a situation on. And then unconditional forgiveness, which is the one that I want and I think is the most valuable for me. What's the most valuable for you today? I want you to think about that. Which types of forgiveness can you leverage? Which types have you been leveraging? Are you leveraging any forgiveness? Ask yourself that. Which one of these types of forgiveness can help you in your life, in your relationships, to extend your happiness, to extend your fulfillment, to extend your peace? Which one of these can you implement and apply into your life? Here's the opportunity. Remember, this is just an opportunity for growth. No self hate. We just present opportunities for growth, right? And I know you're ready to change. I feel it. I know you're ready to change. I know you're tired of carrying around all of that baggage and luggage. I know you're tired of it. I'm tired of it. I just want to be at peace. And I hope that's what you want as well. Last but not least, unconditional forgiveness offers complete release, especially when justice or closure is unavailable. You must heal yourself. You do not need anyone's permission to be healed. You can heal at will. Heal at will. Heal at will. All right, so that's part 1 of 4. What is forgiveness? Before you go, don't forget to get your no self hate, mental health awareness apparel and accessories. We need to spread the word as much as humanly possible. This shirt makes you feel so great in. Well, it made me feel great. I can only speak for myself. I have mine on now. I love this shirt. I love this mental health awareness apparel and accessories. When I'm walking down the street, I am spreading awareness. It is so cool. It feels great. All right, so stop back by NOSELFHATE.com and get your mental health awareness and apparel and accessories. And with that, we will catch you on the next video. Like, subscribe, share, comment. We must spread the word. Remember, you are just as valuable as this information because you are a conduit of this information. Please share it. Anyone that you know in your life that may be struggling with forgiveness, anyone in your life that may be stuck in trauma, tell them that we may have found a way. There's an opportunity for them to escape that. If they choose to take it and leverage the information the way that it needs to be, they can escape it. So with that, thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. I'll see you next time.